Avatara means incarnation. The equivalent word of the Sanskrit word avatara in English is incarnation. What the word avatara actually means is the one who descends. That means, what does this descending mean? Descending means there is some higher place and there is a lower place. And when you come from the higher place to the lower place, it's called descending. So, when we say one who is descending, what does it refer to? Descending from where to where? So, in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks about this material world. He says that this material world is comprised of his inferior energy. Bhumirapo analo vayuhu kham mano buddhirevacha ahankaramiti yam me bhinna prakritir ashtadha. These 8 things constitute the bhinna prakriti or the differentiated energy, bhinna prakriti, the differentiated energy of Krishna. So this material universe, what we see, where we are all currently situated in, comprises these 8 things, 8 fundamental things. Whatever we see around us, different planets, different forms of living entities, birds, bees, plants, trees, mountains, cities, all objects that we see in the world around us is fundamentally made up of a combination of one or more of 8 elements. What are these 8 elements? Bhumi, Rapo, Analo, Vayuhu. Bhumi means earth or solids. Then Bhumihi, Apaha, liquids. Then Bhumir, Apo, Analo, Vayuhu. Anala means flame, different forms of fire. There is electricity, there is, you light a matchstick, there is a flame which comes out. Electricity is another form of fire. Acids are another form of fire. So different forms of fire are also there. And Vayuhu, air or different gaseous substances, fluids. So these 5 are called the gross elements. Elements which are perceptible to our senses. We can either touch them or we can taste them, we can smell them, we can hear them, all these kind of things. So therefore, what we can perceive with our gross senses, with our eyes, tongue, nose, ears, and our skin is called a gross element. These are our 5 gross senses, and whatever we can perceive with these are 5 objects which are either solids or liquids or gases, or it is some form of fire. Now apart from this, and then there is of course space. So these are the elements which we can perceive. These constitute gross forms of objects. Then there are subtle forms of objects. Kham, mano, buddhi, revacha. Manaha, buddhi and ahankara. Mind, intelligence and false ego. So these 3 constitute subtle elements. Everything that we see in this material creation can be fundamentally, it can be brought down to one or a combination of one or more of these elements. When it comes to dead matter, it will be a combination of the gross elements only: earth, water, fire, air and space. When it comes to living entities, they additionally, over and above these 5 elements, they also have mind, intelligence and false ego. So these 8 elements, a combination of these 8 elements in different proportions will result in the forms that we see around us. For example, when you take clay and you mix it with water and then you put it on a potter's wheel, you can rotate it and form it into different shapes and then you bake it in fire. So it's a combination of earth, water and fire. You can get nice jugs, water pots, you can get pullards, you can get some nice forms of different devatas like Ganesha. We had Ganesha Chaturthi. Everybody was buying these murtis of Ganesha made out of clay and water and fire. So the different combinations of these elements result in different kinds of manifestations of different forms which we are able to perceive. So everything that we see in this material world is a combination of these things. Our body also is a combination of these 8 elements. Our body, if you see gross body, there is flesh, there is bones, these are all solids. And then there is blood, which is a liquid. There is saliva, there is urine, these are all liquids within this body. And then we have prana, there is oxygen going in, carbon dioxide coming out, so there is air circulation also. According to Ayurveda, of course, modern science recognizes only 2 kinds of flows of air within the body. One is oxygen and one is carbon dioxide. But according to Ayurveda, there are 10 different kinds of airs which are circulating within the body. So there is air within the body and our body occupies a certain space. So and there is fire within us, because of which we have a certain temperature, isn't it? Our bodies, we are all warm-blooded animals. So our bodies have a certain temperature. And how does temperature come about? It comes about only when there is fire, isn't it? So it's very natural. But the fire in our body is in the form of acid within the stomach. That is also one kind of fire. So we have fire, we have liquids, we have solids, we have certain different kinds of gaseous elements which are circulating within our body, and our body occupies certain space. And not only that, we are all able to think, we can decide, we can discriminate, we have certain intelligence. So there is intelligence, mind, and we have a certain sense of identity. I am a man, I am an Indian, I am from Tamil Nadu, I am from Telangana, I am from this place, that place, etc. So that sense of identity comes out of false ego. So all the living entities have a combination of these 8 elements. And Krishna says that these 8 elements constitute Bhinna Prakriti, the differentiated or inferior energy of Krishna. And then Krishna says, Aparayam tuta stanyam prakritim viddhi me param, jiva bhutam mahabaho yayedam dharyate jagat. Krishna says, there is another superior energy of mine. And that superior energy of Krishna's constitutes the living entities. All of you and me, we are all living personalities. And we have an existence independent of the body. This body, when I was a child, I had a small child's body. Now my body is different. So that does not mean I have changed. I have given up the child's body. If you ask me that can you bring back the body which you had as a child 30 years back, I cannot bring it back. It is gone forever. So that body of the child which I had 30 or 40 years back, that is gone forever. That is finished. That will never come back. So I have given up that body. But when I gave up that body, it's not that I was left hanging in the air without any other body. No, I got a new body. I got a youthful body. And then one day, like all of you, I was a young person, but now I have become an old man. One day you will also become old. So the body which you are currently having, that will be gone, and you will be having an old man's body. So we have to understand that I am not this body, I am independent of this body. So this body is made up of these 8 inferior elements, whereas I myself am also an energy of Krishna, but I am the superior energy of Krishna. Why superior? Because I, as a living entity, can manipulate matter, can manipulate the inferior energy in various ways, and I can try to extract enjoyment out of it. Like we create different aeroplanes, we build various buildings, we make movies and we have sports, so many things we do. These are all manifestations, these are all manipulations of the inferior energy. So we, being the superior energy, have an ability to manipulate matter, and therefore we are superior energy. Now, amongst all of the, like us, there are millions and millions and millions of living entities. There are an infinite number of living entities. And all of us are being maintained within this material universe, and this universe itself is being maintained. The Earth planet that we have is self-sufficient to support life. Today, we are sending Gaganyaan and we are having Aditya and all these kind of explorations, trying to go close to the sun, trying to go to the moon, all these kind of things. But if you look at the Earth itself, the Earth is self-sufficient. We don't need any intervention from outside of the Earth to sustain life. Isn't it? The Earth can sustain life on its own. So, how is the Earth able to sustain life? That is because Krishna is maintaining all the living entities and he is sustaining all the material creation also. So, the Upanishads state that Chetanas Chetana, Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Yo Bahunam Vidatati Kaman. So, the Supreme Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is also a living entity like us. But the difference between us and Krishna is that Eko Yo Bahunam Vidatati Kaman. He is also eternal like us and he is also conscious like us. You know, these are two important traits or characteristics or qualities of a living entity. One is consciousness and the second is the ability to exist eternally. Even though the body may get finished, we will continue to exist. So these two characteristics are there in the Supreme Personality of Godhead also. But Eko Yo Bahunam Vidadati Kaman. That one person is maintaining everything else. He is maintaining all the living entities and the material manifestation. And that person who maintains everybody is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, that Krishna now, we all living entities, within this captured, we are entangled within this material manifestation. We are part of this material universe. Now, Krishna, even within this material universe, when we are there, we all have our residences to stay. We will live in a flat, or if we are born in a little well-off family, we will live in a bungalow. We all have to have a place of residence. When you get admitted in college also, they will ask you what is your name, what is your father's name, and then they will ask you what is your address. Address means where do you stay. You cannot write there, I have no address, I live wherever I want. Right? You have to give an address. Then only you will get an Aadhaar card, you will get a voter ID card. If you say I have no address, nobody will give you even an ID card. They will refuse to recognize that you exist. You see how it is. So all of us have to have a place of residence. Not only human beings, even animals have to have a place of residence. You will see birds, they will go and make their nests. The animals, they will go and live under some culvert. They will make that their home. In the jungle, the animals will go and live in some cave. They will find out some place which they will make their home. Human beings, we do it in a more sophisticated way. We bring together different elements and concrete and bricks and all that and put it all together and make a place where we can all live. But ultimately, that factor is there that we all as living entities need a place to stay. So therefore, similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead also has a place to stay. So it's a simple logic. If we all have a place to stay, we all have our houses. So the Lord also must have a place. Now, Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he does not live in a small flat, 2-bedroom flat, 3-bedroom flat, not even a penthouse, not even a bungalow, not even a villa, not even a palace. He has an entire universe for himself. Can you imagine that? Because he is the Supreme Lord. The bigger the person, the bigger the residential place, isn't it? It's natural. If you go to a very rich man, you don't expect him to be living in a small one-bedroom flat. He'll be living in a big villa, which will have 10 bedrooms and big hall and all those kind of things. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. His residence is a whole universe called the spiritual universe. Now in the spiritual world, when Krishna lives, that is a world which has a completely different characteristic compared to the material world. What is the difference between the material world where we live in and the spiritual world where Krishna lives? To give a simple example, an analogy, if you look at a city, like for instance you take Chennai, the city, you have many people living here, about population is about 2.5 crores approximately in that region. Maybe about 2 crores. That's the population of the entire Chennai metropolis. Now within Chennai, there will be a small pocket where there will be a district jail. Now within the jail also people are there. Small number of people are there. There also people are living. There also people have some occupation. There also people eat food. There also people sleep in the night. All these things are there. But the way those things are conducted there in the jail and in the outside free world in the city, completely different. How different? In the jail, nobody wants to go and live in the jail because it is misery there. You have only suffering there. You have no independence. You have no freedom. The policemen and the jailers will subject you to harsh punishments, and you don't have freedom. You cannot go outside. You cannot do whatever you want. There are strict disciplines to be followed. Whereas once you come out of the jail, if you get freed from the jail, such a free life you can live. You can do whatever you want as long as you are within the law. You cannot break the law, of course. So, but you have a free life outside. So similarly, this material world is like the jail. This is a place where everybody has to undergo miseries. The miseries of birth, death, disease and old age. That is why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Dukkhalayam Ashashvatam. This material world is a place full of miseries. Why? Because it is like a jail. Spiritual world, on the other hand, is the free world, full of bliss. There is no birth, death, disease, old age. You don't have to undergo any of these problems that you face in this material world. There is only happiness and enjoyment and exchange of a blissful relationship with Krishna in the spiritual world. So that's the world where Krishna lives. Even within this material world, you can see, if you are living in a slum, then you have very little facilities. No proper electricity, no proper water, hygiene won't be there, no proper drainage will be there. It's a difficult life. You go to a rich man's house, there will be air conditioned, Italian marble on the floor, and you'll have very soft cushions on the sofas. You'll have all kinds of facilities. Even if there is a power cut, there will be a generator backup. So you see, even within this material world, when you go to a very rich man's place, what your facilities will improve. So in the spiritual world, the facilities are so good that there are no miseries at all. In this material world, even if you go to a rich man's place, there also you will find only miseries. Whereas in the spiritual world, you find only happiness. Satchit Ananda. It is a place full of knowledge, full of bliss and eternity. Now, what happens is, if you take the analogy again of the jail and the free world, what happens is, whenever there are some important events like Independence Day, or there is a Republic Day which is coming up, the president of the country will go to the jail, or the prime minister will come to the jail, or the chief minister will visit the jail. And what the chief executive of the state, what he will do, he will say, today is Independence Day. So many people we have found eligible, we are all freeing you ahead of time, we are letting you free. Go and live a good life. Isn't it? Sometimes these kind of things happen. So, prisoners who have lived well, who are very obedient, they are very, peacefully living within the jail, they will be recommended by the jailer, and the prime minister or the president, they will come and they will give them a pardon and they will allow them to go free. So, similarly, in this material world, we are all suffering birth, death, disease and old age. So Krishna is enjoying the spiritual world, but it's not that he has forgotten all of us. It's not that Krishna is thinking, these people, let them suffer and go to hell. No, Krishna is concerned how to liberate us, how to bring us back to the spiritual world. So Krishna, although he has no business being here, the president or the prime minister or the chief minister has no business in the jail. He doesn't have to go to the jail. He is not a criminal that he has to go to the jail and be caught up there. But he goes there out of his own free will. Similarly, Krishna has nothing to do in this material world. But Krishna comes out of his own sweet will just to liberate us and take us back to the spiritual world. So Krishna comes here and exhibits his wonderful pastimes, his sweet pastimes in Vrindavan, as the son of Yashoda, frolicking in the jungles of Vrindavan with all the cows and with the cowherd boys and with all the gopis and the queens of Dwaraka. So Krishna does all these wonderful leelas, showing us a trailer. This is how the spiritual world is. If you become my devotee, you can also come back to the spiritual world and eternally enjoy like this with me. So to canvas and to liberate us, taking compassion upon us, Krishna descends into this material world from the spiritual world. And whenever Krishna descends like that, he is called an avatara or an incarnation, one who descends. So when Krishna descends, he takes on different forms according to the time, place and circumstance. Sometimes he comes as Lord Ramachandra, sometimes he comes as Narasimha, sometimes he comes as Vamanadev, sometimes as Varahadev. These are all called incarnations or avatars of the Supreme Lord Krishna. But when Krishna himself comes, Krishna is not an avatara. Krishna is an avatari. He is the source of all incarnations. So Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations, and although many incarnations come to reclaim all of us and take us back to Godhead, sometimes Krishna personally also comes. Just like some Independence Day, the president may send his representative. He may send some secretary or some high-ranking official. You can go and you decide whom to release. But sometimes the president may say, no, this time I want to go myself. So Krishna coming is like that. He personally also comes because he is so concerned about all of us that we should all be liberated and go back to the spiritual world. So therefore, whenever Krishna descends into this material world in any one of his forms, it is called an avatara or incarnation or a descent of the Supreme Lord from the spiritual world into this material world. Okay, so that is what is called avatara, and all avatars are personalities. They are all people, whether it is Meena avatara, Kurma avatara, whether it is Vamana, Narasimha, they are all personalities. All personalities of the same Supreme Lord Krishna.